Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy. Carl Jung's Black Books, Part 58, in which I'll pick up right where Gwydion left off last time when Carl Jung met the devil. What's going to happen after Carl Jung meets the devil? But first, this episode is brought to you by Potala Incense. Now, I have no relationship with the manufacturers of this incense, and they are not paying me to say that. So it's not really brought to you by in the traditional sense, but I'm going to light it. And if you see any smoke coming up, it's from this incense. It's Tibetan incense. It's the sort of incense that it smells like a Tibetan temple. I don't think I had ever been to a Tibetan temple until I went to Nepal. I think they exist, right? Do they exist in the U.S.? I'm sure they do. They must. In India, they're all over the place. In many places in the world, you have a part of town that's called Chinatown. In India, there's the Little Tibet parts of Delhi or wherever you go. And there's pretty much most places there's a Tibetan temple or monastery, like within driving distance, within 45 minutes to an hour drive. You can find a big Tibetan temple near like Mysore, Delhi, Rishikesh. I haven't been too many places. I've been to a number of places. I've definitely been to more places than I had before I came to India. In India. Never mind, that's an absurd statement. And so we do the incense and we do the beverage. Cheers. Can you guess what this is? If you guessed vodka, let's find out. Yep, that was vodka. No, that was dihydrogen oxide. I like to drink chemicals. It's water. That was water. If you would like to, surf the Carl Jung playlist or start at the beginning, you can click there. All right. So let's find out what happened after Carl Jung met the devil. February 2nd, 2014. What? February 2nd, 1914. That was a fresh wind. Should it always be necessity that drives us on? Mightn't it be rather joy? My soul, what do you think? Do you want to cross over and tell those beyond that we are well today and that we don't need any help? Quote, isn't it a presumption to knock over there without urgent reasons? End quote. That was my grandpa's explanation of not taking the Lord's name in vain. As if you say, oh God, and God's like, what's that? And you're just like, oh, nothing. I was just saying, oh God, then. And never mind. Anyway, perhaps it is a presumption, but we are not sure. It's worth having a try. Quote, I don't really feel like it, end quote. That's his soul talking. I don't want to force anything, but maybe, who knows, we'll learn something meaningful. Quote, wouldn't you rather like to rest? End quote. I'm not sure, but I am inclined to think that it is at least worth attempting, so go. Quote, I will go and summon Satan for you once more. end quote. Oh, good. Why him? I have heard everything that I need from him yesterday. As for the rest, I let you decide. And then there's the little line to indicate that Carl Jung is going under, going under, going under, going under. Thank you, Devo. You can always count on Devo for some well-placed lyrics. Quote, I believe that I have reached hell. There is a hanged man here. Bracket parentheses, end quote, end bracket parentheses. Good catch, Sonu. A plain, ugly man with a contorted face stands before me. He has protruding ears, a hunchback, and is of a small build. Parentheses, was Christ supposed to look like that? End parentheses, cross out parentheses, was Christ supposed to look like that? End parentheses, that whole line is crossed out. So forget I said it. Strike that from the record. Have you ever been on a jury and like some really juicy stuff gets mentioned and you're like, oh my God, that totally changes my whole perspective on this whole situation and the character of the person accused and everything. And they're like, oh, that's inadmissible. Strike that from the record. Jury, you're not allowed to take that information into consideration when you go deliberate and come to your final decision. Right. Yeah. Okay, because we're robots, not humans. Who are you? H. I assume that's the plain ugly man. Oh, the hunchback. Okay. H. I am a poisoner who was condemned to the rope. I. What did you do? He poisoned people, Carl. H. I poisoned my parents and my wife. There's probably two sides to that story. Never mind. I'll just keep reading. Don't do that. That's not good. There's no excuse. I. Why did you do that? H. To honor God. Did you ever see The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore? Speaking of which, been seeing a lot of advertisements for that Demi Moore. Why am I saying Demi Moore in a weird way? I don't know. Demi Moore and the other actress. Looks interesting. All right, anyway. Oh, yeah. So in The Seventh Sign, we had the Word of God killer.
Isn't murder a crime, too, in the eyes of God?
It is not murder to punish the guilty.
I hope that Edward was able to find a nice clip of the Word of God killer from The Seventh Sign with Demi Moore. Anyway. I. What? To honor God? What do you mean by that? H. First of all, everything that happens is for the honor of God. And secondly, I had my own ideas. I. What went through your mind? You know the last thing to go through a bug's mind when it hits your windshield? It's ass. It's mind. Silly joke. H. What went through my mind? I loved them, and I wanted to transport them more quickly from a wretched life into eternal blessedness. I gave them too strong a nightcap. I. And did this not lead you to find out what your own interest in this was? H. Not at all. I was now alone and very unhappy. I wanted to live for the sake of my two children, for whom I foresaw a better future. I was in better health than my wife, so I wanted to live, end quote. I. Did your wife agree to the murders? H. No, she certainly would not have consented, but she knew nothing of my intentions. Unfortunately, the murder was discovered, and I was put on trial. I. Have you found your relatives again in the beyond? H. That's a strange and unlikely story. I suspect that I'm in hell. Sometimes it seems as if my wife were here too. Did you ever see What Dreams May Come? Sorry. And sometimes I'm not sure, just as little as I'm sure of my own self. I. What's it like? Tell me. H. From time to time, she seems to speak to me, and I reply. But we haven't spoken about either the murder or our children until now. We only speak together here and there, and only about trivial things, small matters from our earlier daily life, but completely impersonal, as if we no longer had anything to do with each other. But the true nature of things eludes me. I see even less of my parents. I believe that I have yet to meet my mother. My father was here once and said something about his tobacco pipe, which he had lost somewhere. I. Tell me, how do you pass your time? H. I believe that there is no time with us, so there is none to spend. Nothing at all happens. I. Isn't that extremely boring? H. Boring? I've never thought about it like that. Boring. Perhaps. But there's nothing interesting. In actual fact, it's pretty much all the same. I. Doesn't the devil ever torment you? H. The devil? I've seen nothing of him. I. You come from the beyond, and yet you have nothing to report? I find that hard to believe. H. When I was still alive, I often thought that surely it would be interesting to speak to one of the revenants. But now the prospect means nothing much to me. As I said, everything here is impersonal and purely matter of fact. That is how you would express it, I assume. I. That is bleak. I assume you are in the deepest hell. H. I don't care. Farewell. Cross out farewell. I guess that I am dismissed. Farewell. I. My soul. What should this boring guest from the beyond mean? Quote, I met him over there, stumbling around restlessly like so many others. I chose him as the next best. He strikes me as a good example. End quote. I. But is the beyond so colorless? Quote, it seems so. There is only motion upon my arrival. Otherwise, everything merely surges back and forth in a shadowy way. End quote. There is nothing personal whatsoever. End quote. What are you guys doing, Carl, Sonu? Why was there an end quote followed by another end? That's weird. Did you proofread? Sorry. What is it then with this, quote, personal quality, end quote? Yesterday, Satan made a most, quote, personal, end quote, impression on me. Quote, I guess he does, since he is the eternal adversary, and because you can never reconcile personal life with absolute life. End quote. Can't one also unite these opposites? Quote, they are not opposites, but simply differences, just as little as you make the day the opposite of the year. End quote. That's enlightening, but somewhat boring. Quote, as always, when one speaks of the beyond, it goes on withering away, particularly since we have balanced the opposites. End quote. I believe the dead will soon become extinct. End quote. Twice in the same entry? Why you end in quotes and then you keep going and then you end quotes again? What is going on? All right, well, that was very short. I think less than 10 minutes, right? Oh, I finished mine. Hang on. So I will read another. All right, cool. It's nice and quiet today. Sunday. Cheers. Oh, you know what we forgot to do? It's never too late. Is that a true statement? I think that's not a true statement. But in this case, it's not too late for us to do this one particular thing. Okay. There's two left. One in my right hand, one in my left hand. Right hand it is. Thank you for helping me with that one. So this looks like a Czech. I don't mean a person from Czechoslovakia, obviously. Why would I mean that? Man, that's nice. Now let's see if I put that up correctly. Let's consult the little rune book. The little book of runes. Magnifying glass, I need you. And you're currently being a bookmark, so we'll get the bookmark. This is my bookmark. There's a video called California. See, because what happened was I left it all behind with no intention of ever returning, but I got rid of most of my stuff except for like a closet, a garage corner full of boxes, a corner of a garage, out of the way, a 2-car garage. It was out of the way, didn't take up too much space. In my buddy Chris's garage. Thank you, Chris, if you're watching. Chris isn't watching. Chris is like a teacher and has a son. But anyway, hello nonetheless. So I put all my stuff there, and so I figured at some point, probably, I would have to figure out where I was going to land in life. Anyway, so I left, I went to Africa, hung out with some friends. You've heard me talk about that before. My friends there in South Africa. There's an episode, that's the last one, where I interviewed Kay. The most recent, I should say. It's also the one that's part video. It has a video component. The other ones are audio only. Anyway, BT interviewed him, I should say. So I stayed there for 10 days, then went to Nepal, then came to India, then met Piyu or Priya. And then I had to go take care of some stuff in California before I could permanently relocate to India and ship all my stuff. Decide what I wanted to ship. I think maybe half or less of my stuff I put in boxes and shipped to India, took care of my business. I stayed for Thanksgiving. My sister wanted me to stay for Thanksgiving of 2018, so I did that. And then I hopped on a plane. Oh. And, anyway, in that video called California, you can see when I was packing up all my stuff, either giving it to Robbie or shipping it to India, and you can see the original sketches that eventually led to this business card. And I now have thousands of these, and they are mostly bookmarks. But I do occasionally give them out. Occasionally, very occasionally. I used to give them out all the time. People who remember me in Nepal are like, oh yeah, he's always giving out those fucking cards. Anyway. So, now I have freed the magnifying glass from the clutches of being a bookmark. And the check, it turns out, is upside down. Let's rotate that so that it looks like the one here in this book. A straight line with a little dangly. I'm assuming that the book is right. It's called Laguz. Laguz. And it means flow. I like it. And it says here, water, sea, a fertility source. Parentheses, see Grendel's mare in Beowulf. And parentheses, no. I'm not going to do that. I might Google it. Oh, Editor Edward, Google whatever I just said and say something. In the context of Beowulf, the mare refers to a dark, mysterious lake that serves as the dwelling place of Grendel's mother. All right. See, I didn't care, but I dug a little anyway. All right. There it is. That's the rune that will be there for the second of the two journal entries that we're going to be reading today. Did I point? That California video's here. You can watch it now or later at the end of this if you want. And that whole travel series is worth checking out. It's in reverse order. So the most recent parts of the travel series are at the beginning, and the bottom, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll find the one called, I think it's called To Africa, and that was leaving California and going to Africa. And then Nepal, and then Bhutan, and so on and so forth, up until today. The most recent one was Shillong. How many times have I pointed to the corner? Shillong was where I recorded Teilhard de Chardin part 14, which I'm always telling people, I don't know why that video doesn't get much love, but there's an element to that video that I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but I kind of want, if people are going to watch stuff, it's a thought experiment or a thought process that I went through while I was there. And, well, anyway, it's there. Teilhard de Chardin, part 14. I also recorded Martin Luther, part 8, while I was there with Theo. And, let's see, the Carl Jung playlist, the California video, the Teilhard de Chardin, the Martin Luther. If I'm not forgetting something, if I pointed once and didn't just mention it, then I can point one more time. So when you go to the California, when you go to the California video, check out the playlist it's part of. It's called Travels. I would suggest. The thing is, it's really good, and not that many people have watched it. It's one of those kinds of things. And the most recent thing, I mean, the thing that I was, gosh, it's gone away. It's completely gone from my mind. I guess it wasn't important. All right. If I remember, there was some fifth link I was going to point to, but I don't remember what it was. It's completely gone away from my mind. The Shanghai video is good too, but its thing is, the Shanghai video is like confusing for a lot of people because it's about Shanghai, sure, but I'm not like, I shall make a tourist travel video for Shanghai about going to Shanghai. No, it's actually about me going to Shanghai with the subtext that my dad was born there and my grandfather lived there for 20 years, and that was my first time ever, first and only probably time going to Shanghai, and I was having to leave India, and I didn't know how long I was going to be in California, and I was deeply in love with Priyal, and I really didn't want to be away from her for 5 minutes, let alone an unknown number of months. And the very first place I went after saying goodbye to her, for, temporarily goodbye, was Shanghai. And so in the beginning of the video, I was sad. So the video doesn't actually start in Shanghai, it starts in India. It's in India for the first, 5 minutes. And then it goes to Shanghai, and it's sad. And then it starts to pick up, and then it goes through a journey in Shanghai. I was there for 3 weeks. So that's the Shanghai video. It's like a poetic diary entry about my specific 2018 journey to Shanghai. It's worth checking out. All right. I hope this next one isn't ridiculously long, because then I will have made this episode ridiculously long by talking for too much, talking too long. Flow, I'm resisting mentioning yesterday's episode. But now I've mentioned it. Meccan Revelation Part 35 was the closing of the the closing of the 15 color-related episodes. And in it, it was a very complex video, a lot of editing, a lot of effects, a lot of stuff going on. And one of the things that I mentioned in it was that sometimes when I make an episode that's kind of like S tier, then I have to immediately follow it up with one that's D tier. I wasn't using the tier system. But the point is, I'm clearly not putting a whole lot of effort into this episode. Except for this little gesture toward effort. But I didn't have to stick it to the screen. It's actually here. See? It's on the oud that I used yesterday in yesterday's episode, and the oud is underneath the microphone. I'm going to keep reading. All right, this is the next entry in Carl Jung's Black Books. February 6th, 1914. Today I feel the abundance of beauty and clarity. We are, my soul, on the right path. You have a fine nose. Those terrible sandbanks of banality that used to frighten me have now become helpful. Even contradiction has become a rung in the ladder of life. Herein lie peace, great serenity, and beauty. Steps alternating between white and black form the staircase of life. Quote, don't express yourself too generally. Beware of every system. Systems are long-winded errors. Oh, that's a good line. Only one's own most truth is alive and real. End quote. It seems to me you also express yourself in a general way. Quote, probably slightly, but still a good sign of our understanding, ? End quote. Let's hope for the best, but nothing is easier than to be at odds with you. You are sensitive. Quote, if you listen to me and share your warmth of life with me, I will gradually harden myself. For a long time, I have desired a certain kind of healthy toughness. All right. There you have it. 2 entries from Carl Jung's secret, private journals that were published. I found out these, it's easily found out enough. These black books were published in 2020. Not that long ago. You remember 2020, don't you? If you don't, you're very young. Perhaps you're in the future. Me, I think it's November 10th of 2024. It's a Sunday. And I am here in Goa, India. I don't know what time it is, but the sun is still up. All right. I think next time I feel like recording, which, knowing me, will probably be tomorrow, we'll be getting back to the Tipitaka over on Buddhist books, where they call me Pymander here on Buddhist books, but I call me Edward over on Chicken Philosophy. Reverse all that. I fucked everything up that I just said. Anything else? I'll look around, see if there's anything. No, nothing I can see. Sometimes my thoughts are limited to what I can see. Don't forget to drink plenty of water today.